Well, hello there, intentional streamers. Welcome to another edition. Actually, this is the weeknight edition of Intentional Streaming with my co-host, Jarvis.
What is up, everybody?
And your other co-host would be me, Flip.
I think at this point you can probably call yourself the host and me the co-host.
It seems like I'd be hogging the limelight then.
But you're the man behind the curtain pulling the levers and the wires and everything.
Ooh, I'm the puppet master. Ooh, spooky.
This Halloween-themed Week 9 version of Intentional Streaming.
I think that's all we got for Halloween, though, isn't it?
Yeah, now we're on to Christmas, so that's actually what I'll be doing tonight is helping my wife put up the Christmas tree.
Aw, how sweet.
Yeah.
Doing that family thing. Good for you. And happy anniversary, belated, one day.
Thank you.
So I'm sure you got to spend some quality time with the soon, quickly approaching non-pregnant wife, correct?
That is correct. Yep. Nice, relaxing evening.
All righty. Well, everybody be sure to like, subscribe, and
hit that bell.
Alrighty. Let's hop right into this and let's get into the news and notes from the past week. Browns fired Hugh Jackson and offensive coordinator Todd Haley, and they go with interim Greg Williams. What do you think of that, Jarvis? Those are some big moves.
Okay, so one, I was not super surprised with the firing of Hugh Jackson, but I was actually really surprised to see that they also let Todd Haley go. I thought for sure this would have been the time that he slid in, took over that team, but apparently both were let go due to some internal locker room issues, stuff like that. I don't know the ins and outs of it all, but I think Greg Williams, I don't know. I kind of got mixed feelings on it. I think that he could potentially do well. I mean, he's inheriting a team, full of talent.
It just doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me on this. I get the Hugh Jackson thing. Geez, he just doubled his win total. Let's get rid of him.
Right.
2-5-1. What are they expecting with this team? You've just thrown in Baker Mayfield and number 1 pick overall, who's struggled. And I hate this about the NFL when they fire the coach if the players don't produce.
Yeah.
Okay, when do you get rid of the players? Well, other teams do that with veterans. They get rid of them like that. But Todd Haley left Pittsburgh because of issues with Big Ben there.
Mm-hmm.
I think he rubs players the wrong way. He doesn't coddle them enough. I don't know. I would have probably gone, and we got to remember, between Haley and Greg Williams, these are both failed head coaches from past.
Mm-hmm.
Haley with Kansas City and Greg Williams, I believe, was with the Bills, and they both had bad head coaching records. So we'll see. The Freddie Kitchens, he was a quarterbacks coach, came from Arizona, that's going to take over the OC. So he did cut his teeth a bit under Bruce Arians there, at least. So don't be surprised to see more Njoku, more out of the slot guy. What's his name?
Jarvis Landry.
Oh, the best wide receiver in the NFL, right? Okay.
Stop it. I am on board with this hire, though.
With the Freddie Kitchens?
Yeah, why not?
The two guys that they had were Al Saunders and Ken Zampese. And Zampese, I believe, was a long time, maybe an OC or at least a quarterback's coach with Cincinnati. And Al Saunders, I believe, also came from the Kansas City organization. They're both offensive gurus. So we'll see what kind of help that they're going to give Freddie Kitchens, I guess.
And I can already promise you this, that this isn't going to be the only organization that's going to be making a coaching turnover. I have a sneaking suspicion my team will be doing the very same thing at some point this year.
No, the Steelers aren't getting rid of their coach. Oh, not everybody's a Steelers fan. I forget.
Nope, not everyone.
Jameis Winston lost his starting gig, and there is actually talk that he's done. He's done in Tampa Bay.
Exactly. And not only this year, but I mean done. Like, he could be on the move.
Right now, they have their fifth-year option placed on Winston. Now, that is for injury only. So the only way they have to pick up that contract for next year if he's not healthy enough to actually pass a physical at some point in the off season. I'm not exactly sure when the date on that is.
That's a good point. I did not know that.
Yeah, it's they kind of went through this a few years ago with Kaepernick when they exercised a fifth-year option on him, and then he got hurt, and they were terrified that he couldn't pass a physical. So I'm going to assume that his fifth-year option is probably $17-18 million. So it's a big chunk of change.
Oh, for sure.
For me, Big Ben retires after this year, I'd be waiting there with open arms to take Jameis Winston into being a Steeler.
Would you really?
Absolutely.
Yeah, because your heir apparent just got shipped out. Landry Jones.
Oh, no. No. Landry Jones was never the heir apparent.
You were banging the table hard for him for a while.
No, I liked Landry Jones as a backup quarterback, not a starter. He's a quality backup quarterback. And, you know, the thing with Pittsburgh, I don't like either one of their quarterbacks. I still believe that Jameis Winston is a franchise quarterback in this league.
Yeah, I mean, I can get on board with that, I suppose.
You know, we talk about
as we had the similar conversation with Marcus Mariota.
Absolutely.
You know, he's the same boat.
You know, Winston, is the only quarterback to throw for 4,000 yards his rookie and sophomore years.
Cam Newton didn't do that?
I don't believe so. He was probably running too much, playing Superman. Now let's get into the trades here. Demaryius Thomas traded to the Texans.
Boy, oh boy. It's with a heavy heart that I have to say that. Man, I've had a lot of great moments with Demaryius Thomas, and probably my all-time favorite moment is one of Flip's absolute.
We're gonna have some difficulty. Sorry. No, we're not going to be able to hear the rest of this.
Oh man, you know what I'm talking about. Tebow to Demaryius and first play in overtime.
God,
that was absolutely one of my greatest memories, and I have a whole bunch of those with Demaryius Thomas. What an outstanding athlete, not only wide receiver, but just an overall great guy. It's sad to see him leave. It makes great business sense on both ends for Houston and Denver to part ways. John Elway already came out. Joe Ellis already came out, talked about how they will be inducting him probably into the Ring of Honor at the stadium, and rightfully so. So Demaryius Thomas, it's sad to see you leave, but I'm excited to see, you know, what you can do in Houston, and how fitting is it his very first game as a Texan is in Denver this Sunday. So just days after he's traded, he goes to Houston in a situation that I feel he's going to slide right into and do fairly well, with Will Fuller out, Kiki Kuti out. What do you think? How do you think he's got some fantasy upside for the rest of the year?
Yeah, absolutely. I like him a whole lot better in that situation than in Denver with Case Keenum. So I'm sorry, I'm having to wipe away the tears from the thinking about Tebow throwing to him in overtime still. That's one of my worst Steeler memories ever. Yeah, I think he does. And I think he does produce with Deshaun Watson there. You know, they don't have a tight end to really throw to. They don't really have any receiving backs. So without Fuller in there, they had to have a second wideout. You can't just rely on that defense that I believe lost one of their corners too. So
it'll be interesting to see how this affects guys, you know, like DeAndre Hopkins, to see how it affects him, because, you know, you had guys like Will Fuller that were like the the deep threat guys, the barn burners that can just go deep and go down and get it. Demaryius Thomas has lost a little bit on his step, so I don't see him being a super great deep threat, but he's just an excellent route runner. This is a good fit for him. And I actually think it does help Hopkins now that he's going to have another weapon on the other side of the field to take a little bit of attention away from him.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. The next one is Golden Tate being traded to the Eagles.
Wow. Sorry, Nelson.
Yeah, Nelson Aguilar was actually becoming fantasy relevant for like the first time in his career,
and you get replaced by one of the best slot guys in the game right now. Yeah. It's a big signing for him.
It definitely is. Ty Montgomery to the Ravens. But will he fit a third down role there that they've really been needing, that they haven't had since they had Woodhead for a little while.
And then they have it with Kenneth Dixon. But one, he couldn't stay healthy, and two, couldn't stay out of trouble. So how they use him is kind of still up in the air. But what it speaks more to the well, I guess we'll get into it a little bit later. But it speaks a little bit more to the fact that maybe they just don't have quite the confidence in what they have right now. So they felt the need to go out and get someone like Ty Montgomery, who's a dual threat running back.
Agreed. Now, do you think part of that trade was the Packers players turning on Ty Montgomery after the huge costly fumble that they lost the game against the Rams? I mean,
it would be sad if that's the case, but it wouldn't. I guess I couldn't put it past them.
I mean, we've all seen. I didn't see it as a selfish move. I looked at it it's a brave move by Montgomery taking it out. He's trusting his ability, and then he fumbles. And that's just part of the game. There was 52 other players on that roster. 45 other players that were suited up besides him on game day. Did any of them put them in the position to actually have the lead at the time? No, they were trailing at the time.
Right.
So
as easy it is to look at plays like that and cast blame. I mean, you got to look at the rest of the game. There's all those guys on the team that could have at any point made a play to help their team. I
agree.
It's just one of those as the clock winds down and you get into those big situations. That's where the focus gets put on, and not necessarily always the right thing to do, but easy to do.
Agreed. Let's take a look at the waivers from last night. I have not looked at these yet, so
I have.
Oh, whoa! Look at Mike with the big money.
Yeah, I put a bid on him, but he outbid me by about 100%.
well, I see. Well, yeah, you outbid Torrey there.
But David Moore, I mean, he's making some noise. He's producing when you have a not so healthy Doug Baldwin. What are his pass catching options right now? I mean, Tyler Lockett is there. Now David Moore stepped up. Now you got Ed Dickson coming back. So there really wasn't a ton of pass catching options there. And he's been very viable. So I think it's a great move. I mean, he could easily push him down to his taxi squad and see what he does, or try to fit him in at some point this year.
Yeah, agreed. JJ with the Kansas City Chiefs. Boy, they've been just a huge disappointment. But I believe they're playing the
I think that's
Bills
why
this
the
week?
Browns.
The Browns.
Yep,
Okay.
I think that's probably why he landed him.
Yeah, that's right. So that's a good move. We'll see if it's, maybe he'll keep. And that defense has had a lot of injuries, and it's rebuilding. When it's in prime form, it's a solid defense with Eric Berry back there. There's your Denver Broncos defense that you paid just a tad bit more than anybody else.
Yeah, well, and the reason why I went after him is just forward thinking. And I talked a little bit with you a little earlier about this. But, if you look, I looked ahead at their playoff schedule. In Week 14, Week 1 of the playoff schedule, they play the 49ers. Week 15, they play the Browns. And Week 16, they play the Raiders. So I really like those three matchups. If I get into a bind with my starting defense at the Rams, I can easily throw one of those guys or the Broncos in there. and I have a way to bounce back and forth. So this is clearly a stash and wait for the playoffs to start move.
That's a great forward thinking move. You know, we're good to the point where you're maybe locked into the playoffs. If not, you're real close. The schedule probably plays out in your favor for sure. So yeah, looking, what 4, 5, 6 weeks in advance. That's great thinking. It really is. Even though the Denver defense, they don't have the teeth that they used to.
No.
Terrell Pryor.
See, now this is interesting, and I wanted to talk about this because at first I was like, kind of like, but he's going to a Buffalo team who is just, decimated right now at the quarterback position. Terrell Pryor is a previous quarterback. Could this be a situation?
No.
Now, just hear me out.
All right.
Could this be a situation? He played quarterback for the Raiders. Mm-hmm. Could this be a situation where they line him up? Well, we saw Monday night, the Bills, they were trying to run all these trick plays, running out of the Wildcat. What if you throw Terrell Pryor back there? He can actually be a dual threat guy. If you can slide in a wide receiver that's also going to be playing quarterback, that could be interesting.
But, there's a reason why he's not a quarterback anymore.
Well, he's not going to go there to play quarterback. But what I'm saying is,
I get it. I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm just saying he failed as a quarterback, and he had no problems transitioning to wide receiver.
Right.
And, the problem is he transitioned to wide receiver, left Cleveland, and then transitioned out of being a wide receiver. So he just never continued his progress that he saw when he was with Cleveland as a wide receiver there.
Mm-hmm.
Cowboys defense, that's Mike being a homer. Nah, they probably have something with their schedule there. Maybe. But, Corn Ranch was in for him. So there's probably a little more to it than what I'm just seeing on that side.
And me too.
Maybe they're actually doing fairly well. I honestly don't know. We can check on that when we go through the
and this is kind of off this league, but everything with Quentin, he was really going after the Cowboys defense too. So maybe there is something there that I haven't looked into and seen, but several people in there going after the Cowboys D. So
Mason Foster, I like that.
Well,
unfortunately, dropping Zach Cunningham, that's tough. That guy's a stud, and I believe he's done for the year. What were you going to say,
I was going to say we should look at what Will did. He's had a very rough year so far at the tight end position. Sorry, and he picks up Ed Dickson. I was really hoping someone else would come in there and grab him because I think Ed Dickson could have a very strong second half of the season in a position for Will that's kind of been his Achilles heel so far to this point. And he's solidified that. That just scares me as a playoff contending team and Will being one of the best.
But Ed Dickson has always been kind of, long on potential, short on talent, or maybe the other way around. I don't know. He's just never really produced. He was with Baltimore, and they got crowded there. But I don't think it really solves his problem. I think it just muddles his.
Well, I'm not coming out and pounding the table saying Ed Dickson's going to be a top 5 tight end, but he could sneak in the back half of the top 10.
No, I get it. Here's a really interesting move by Luke, picking up Peterman, who he's one of the I think statistically I read he is one of the worst 4 quarterbacks ever to start through how many starts he's had in his career in the NFL, and I found that just amazing. Now, a lot of that's skewed from his first game where he threw 5 interceptions and a half. So that doesn't help. Jordan Thomas,
I don't know enough about him.
I don't know either. But Corn Ranch, he's in a lot of leagues.
Yep.
So, oh no, that Jordan Thomas, he had 2 touchdowns last week.
Oh, did he?
That's what it was. Yeah, because I'll try to make a mental note to look at him when we go through the lineups. But yeah, I want to say he had 2 touchdowns last week. He's I want to say he's a rookie or maybe a second-year player, but he just kind of came out of nowhere.
I was just gonna say I don't.
Yeah, it was the Thursday game. That's what it was. Deshaun Watson throwing those 5 touchdowns, 2 were to him out of the blue. Gano kicked another long field goal last week. That's a solid pickup. Stefan, I guess, kind of panicking a little bit. He did pick up 2. So he was actually talking about putting. Maybe I shouldn't tell that. Okay,
Yeah,
so I won't.
Yep.
All right, hold on a second. Excuse me, I've been a bit under the weather all week. All right. Well, what do you got for our standings and so forth?
Yeah, so through week 8, we have in Division 1, we got Kroll still sitting at the top at 10-5, Flip coming in second at 9-6, Mike 6-9, Gary at 3-12. I feel bad for Gary because that record is not indicative of the team that he has, and I'll talk a little bit about that here in a second. But let's go to Division 2. Will, again, one of the front runners for the best team in the league right now, sitting atop Division 2 at 12-3, followed by Shannon at 9-6, Darky coming in at 7-8, and then Luke rounding out that Division 2 at 1-14. And then down in Division 3, we got another tie. I mean, this seems like it's not – there's no separation there between myself and Stefan. We're both 13-2. And then at third place, Tori's 5-10, and then JJ at 2-13.
You know, there's so many things that really stick out here. You know, you look at Mike at 12-42, being at 6-9, and you come down here. 5-10, and he's got Corn Ranch has 50 points on him. Mm-hmm. That's some pretty tough luck there. That's for sure. And guys only with 1 or 2 wins, less than 100 points back. That's pretty tough.
Yeah,
and I think the schedule's really coming into play. Gary at losing 7 in a row. I mean, that's tough.
It is, but here's what I want to talk about though too. So like right now, if the playoffs were to start today, I would be the number 1 seed just based off a record. Will would come in with the number 2 overall seed based on winning the division, and Kroll would be the third seed based off of winning the division, and then in comes Stefan, the 4th seed based off of record. Flip would come in at the 5th seed. He's actually tied with Shannon on the record at 9-6, but Flip has more points. So therefore, Shannon slides in at that 6th seed based solely off of points. Now he's got 1,360 points right now. However, when you look at Tori down there, right? Tori's got 1,298, so he's only 62 points behind that 6th seed, and his record's 5-10. Shannon's is 9-6. Mm-hmm. Look at Gary. Gary's at 1,265. So he's like 95 points back of that 6th seed. So Gary, don't throw in the towel. Mike, don't throw in the towel. You guys are like less than 120 points. All 3 of those teams are less than 120 points away from securing that 6th seed. So don't think for a second that just because you have a 3-2 record that you're out of it.
Oh, exactly. And then you throw in, Mike's 3 wins behind me. Mm-hmm. And he's in what, 9th on the so he's the third wild card out right now. Or I guess record wise he would be the 2nd wild card record wise. If I'm making any sense whatsoever.
No, yeah, but it just makes it like it just solidifies my opinion in this league as being my favorite league that I've ever been in for this reason. And we have, with the 3 divisions, that last playoff seed going solely based off of points. You could realistically have the worst record in the league and still find your way in.
And that's kind of the reason why I designed it that way, is to give a team a chance that has had to play a brutal schedule. but and taken some really tough losses, like Mike has.
Yeah, so I mean,
like Gary has, like Corn Ranch has. All these guys have taken really tough losses, and not to belittle Chris, who just took two, or was it one or two bad losses this past week. So
yeah, there was a couple bad losses here.
yeah,
but again, like we're ready to. Here we are at the very beginning part of week 9. We've got 5 weeks left before the playoffs start. So guys, do not give up. Nope. Put in an effort. Like keep those lineups rolling. Like make those roster decisions, those waiver wire acquisitions. Go out there and go for it, because your chances of hitting that 6th seed is up in the air for a lot of people.
Exactly. And I know for Luke and JJ, it's been a tough year, and unfortunately, mathematically, they're probably out of it. But what I liked seeing last night was seeing both of them in for waivers. That they're going to continue, and you guys could easily shape the playoff by knocking some of these teams out that you haven't played yet.
Yeah, and stay with it, because even if you don't make the playoffs, you have a fighting chance to land that number 1 overall pick. Mm-hmm. Look what that did with Stefan.
Well, and plus the other thing is that $100 for the top score of the year's up in play. Yeah, 249 is going to be real hard to beat and take from Jarvis, but anything's possible.
Absolutely.
How about last week's recap?
Yeah, so last week we had 5 teams go 2-0. Those were Flip, Kroll, Will, myself, and Stefan. Darky, Shannon, both of those guys went 1-1. And then Mike, Gary, JJ, Luke, and Tori all succumbed to the Goosers, 0-2. A couple matchups I wanted to highlight here real quick. Kroll versus Tori. Wow. Yeah. Oh man, I'd be so frustrated if I was Tori. Kroll beat Tori 164.46 to 163.68. So we're talking like 0.8 points.
Yeah, and there must not have been a scoring change on that.
I didn't see any come through. I was looking, but man, that's a tough break. We're talking, coming from a week last week where we didn't have one matchup, within like 10 points, and this week we got 3. So.
And so many of these matchups weren't supposed to be close, and so many of them were close up and down.
Yeah. Darky took a loss to, Stefan. We are all looking at that, yes. Kind of hoping for that miracle Mark Ingram touchdown there. But, yeah, he had 172.79, and Stefan had 176.05. So there's a 4-point matchup right there. And then Mike, he lost to Kroll 154.51 to 164.46. So that's a 10-point matchup. So we had 3 games within 10 points, which is much different than what it was last week. So this is an interesting week, to say the least. We did have the high point of this week was Flip.
Nope.
Of this week.
Oh, whoops. Sorry, I forgot that I had McCoy going. Oops.
Yeah, so this one must actually have the stat changes adjusted, because I had originally posted earlier in this week that you had 215.05s, but it does look like a stat change has happened. Make a note of that, people.
Penalized.
Look at that. Make a note of that. Stat changes do happen. So Flip has 213.55. Unfortunately, that's not enough to take down high point for the year that I put up in week 8 at 249.21. Low point this week was Luke at 137.99. Don't worry, Darky. Your low point for the year is still intact. Week 1, 110.67.
Woohoo! Congrats. Poor Darky.
Oh, boy. Yeah, there's your recap.
Alrighty, so we got the playoffs if they started today with Jarvis, Will, Kroll, Stefan, myself, and Shannon, with 2 other guys, with Tori, Gary, Mike, all in the mix. But, I would say, Darky there at 7 and 8, definitely in the mix record-wise. Only 2 games out.
Mm-hmm.
The big Kroll with that big 5-game winning streak, and he's earned it. he's taken those victories on Monday nights or Sunday nights. And
did his winning streak continue again after the Saints run a bye? Because I'm curious to see, because he's got Breeze, Kamara, and Thomas. So I'm guessing
they've already had their bye, I believe.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like maybe their bye was like 2 weeks ago or something like that.
I think it was 2 weeks
ago. And then
ago.
his 5-week winning streak has started from them coming off that bye.
Yeah.
Like maybe he took a loss that week.
We'd have to look that up to be sure, but I think you're right around there.
Mm-hmm.
So, all righty, let's get into this week's matchups.
Or do you want to do the supers?
We'll do the supers because I'm a little lost. I've been behind all week long here.
It's all right. It happens.
Not even
you're sick.
And
we're on an off day,
Yeah, maybe that's what it is.
That's my fault. I'll take the blame for that. Having a stupid anniversary on stupid Halloween.
Yeah,
pushing it back. I should have forward thought that we were going to have our podcast on Wednesdays 3 years ago, and I decided to get married on Halloween.
No idea what you could have possibly been thinking. Yeah. I just blame your wife.
Yeah. All right. So what I want you to do is I want you to scroll down to Kroll's matchup versus was it Tori?
Alrighty.
Because my super landed on Kroll's team this week. It was funny because it was actually something that Tori posted in GroupMe. But my super for this week was Deshaun Watson. This dude went, there it is. Yeah, this dude went 16 of 20 for 229 yards. He had 5 touchdowns. What's crazy about that is this guy only had 4 incompletions on the day. He threw more touchdowns than he did incompletions on the road to a 30.96 point performance. This is what helped Kroll just barely squeak ahead of Tori in that 164 to 163 win. Incredible play coming off an injury of a guy who actually rode a bus to Jacksonville because he wasn't cleared to get into an airplane and fly up in the air because of his lungs issues. So
yes, how crazy is that? And it was a 12-hour bus ride,
right?
That he took.
Yep. So it was kind of a no-brainer for me to select Deshaun Watson as this week's super for myself. Again, given the fact that he came off of an injury like that, and then 2, he just put up a monster performance to just barely get past Tori.
My super also is with Kroll, also for the same reason.
We didn't plan that.
Boy. Alvin Kamara, and this is against the Vikings. Yeah, the 5th ranked run defense Vikings. 27 points. Yeah, he didn't rush for a lot, but geez, look at that. Look at the receptions again, and the receiving, the 2 touchdown game. It just gets old seeing that guy. It really does.
And he's 22.
Yeah. Maybe Kroll will trade him away for a ham sandwich.
I don't know. I reached out to him to see if he'd make a move this week, and he's sitting pretty tight.
Well, if your offers are...
I wasn't offering for Alvin Kamara, just so everyone knows. I was not offering for him.
All righty. And your pooper for the week?
Pooper, Mike. Ouch. Mike, unfortunately, has rostered my pooper for this week. David Njoku. Buddy, David, man, what happened? A big old gooser out of you in a game that I felt had a pretty good script for him. This guy didn't even get not only he took a goose egg, he didn't even get a target. Like, what in the world happened here? And Mike lost one of his matchups by 10 points. And if you look at the last 4 weeks that he had, he was in double digits. So
yeah, and that's a really tough one, especially against the Steelers, who had been just terrorized by tight ends. But they did some shifting of their coverage. And Njoku actually should have had a touchdown in that game, but he was absolutely mauled in the end zone. That prevented the touchdown from happening.
In long-term outlook, this obviously looks like a one-off situation, so I wouldn't weigh any into it.
I wouldn't either.
Just chalk it up to just one of those, terrible terrible weeks.
And Mayfield was under pressure a lot during the game. I think he only suffered 2 sacks, but he was harassed, and the Steelers' offense just kind of really rolled along that game, and they just didn't have the ball. My pooper is going to actually go to Kroll.
He had 2 supers and a pooper
And
on
a
his team this week.
pooper. Yeah, this is probably kind of a weak pooper, but 0 points for Miami against the Texans. Their defensive line apparently is that bad, even with a bunch of high-priced guys that they have there. But, boy, 0 points out of a defense, that's really tough to do.
Yeah, I mean, and you kind of depend on those defenses, too.
You do. I mean, we've all
Especially
seen,
given the fact that you start off with 10 points, and if you can get a sack, if you can get a fumble recovery, an interception, or anything, at least you're coming away with 2 points.
Agreed. And, luckily Kroll didn't need them, but he easily could have. So, let's get into this week's.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All righty. I don't want to go too fast because Stefan complained that it made him seasick, I think he used the term. Maybe not.
Sounds right.
All righty. So your starts, or do you? Let's take a look at.
Yeah, let's just go one by one.
Okay. So
there's some interesting matchups this week, starting with the first one. Flip and Shannon.
Shannon's actually a favorite here, and he should be. I lose C.J. Beathard, which I was really counting on him tonight. That throws things kind of out the window again for me, even on a good bye week for me, where he's really my only starter that's out.
And we look at right now he's got Elliott slated to be in his starting roster. He's on a bye this week. He's going to have to make some sort of move on Friday to pick up a kicker to fill that slot. So,
wrong Elliott. I'm like, what?
yeah, Jake Elliott.
Yeah, pull Zeke Elliott pull Zeke Elliott out of there. What? Okay, Jake Elliott.
Yes.
Yeah. So that's a big thing that he'll just have to remember tomorrow.
I'm not going to let you scroll past this without glossing over Mr. Ryan Fitzmagic. How mad are you right now?
Yeah, I'm kind of mad.
What perfect timing! Because look down at his bench players. He's got Andrew Luck on a bye. It would have just been him able to start Goff, but instead he's able to slide in Ryan Fitzpatrick, who could easily put up 20 points. But
easily.
But say that didn't happen. He's actually got a guy on his team who would be my sleeper for the week, and Chris Godwin. It has everything to do with the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is back. He seems to be heavily targeted when he's in, and right now, Barber's basically their only running back, so it should prove to be a pretty pass-heavy game, and I like the fact, and I like the chances there. So you look at the game script, it should be pretty pass-heavy. Chris Godwin, he's got a good relationship with Fitzmagic, and heck, you can't rule anything out when that guy's in there. So,
well, one thing you definitely can't rule out with Fitzmagic is he's gonna at least turn the ball over once. I don't think you can discount that one little bit. Because
no,
that's his MO.
That's so true.
The question with that, real quick, would be: is Fitzmagic on a long leash? Does he turn the ball over 3 times like he did when the week before he lost his starting gig? He turned the ball over 3 times against the Steelers, and then started the next game and played a half, and I think he turned the ball over 2 more times, and then he was out.
Yeah, and we saw a 4 interception performance from Winston last week against the Bengals defense. So I think that if they're at the point now where they're fed up enough with Winston, with the suspension earlier this year, coming out and laying an egg during a game which actually should have been pretty good for him. if they're going to slide him into the bench and be like, you know what, Ryan, you're taking over, I would assume he's probably going to have a bit of a longer leash than what maybe some people expect.
Well, okay. I get the 4 interceptions, and I get that a few of them were pretty bad. But, I looked this up, and so he's thrown an interception 49 out of 102 games. Now, when I can't remember what I looked up for Big Ben, it was something, it was above that. It was like 60% of Big Ben's games that he's actually thrown an interception in. Big Ben threw 5 interceptions against the Jags last year. They didn't bench him.
Yeah. So kind of back on that, though, like at that stat that you were talking about, like if you also factor in his fumbles. So just a quick nugget here. So Winston, he's played a total of 48 games in his NFL career, right? 48 games. He's thrown 50 interceptions and fumbled the ball 21 times, 71 turnovers in 48 games. So we have a pretty good sample size of that. And so he, in my opinion, he is what he is. If you expect that to change at that point, then.
But how bad is that offensive line, always been down there? He's always being pummeled. Always has a guy in his face.
But he never throws the ball away. He always tries to force it.
And, that's the gunslinger,
Yep.
But you see that out of Big Ben. You see that with Brett Favre, I like the gunslinger mentality, and that's why I said if Big Ben retires, I would be more than happy to have Jameis come right in.
Mm-hmm. It's like being more risky in your stock investments. Like,
yeah.
The higher upside, but the bigger the risk. But I don't want this to sound like I don't like Jameis Winston. I do. I think he's a fine quarterback. But at this point, I think that just given it with everything, it wouldn't surprise me, one, with the fact that there's doubt that he's even going to be in Tampa Bay much longer. But then two, like, why not? Like, why not just let Ryan Fitzpatrick take it over and see what he does?
I just think because you know what you're going to...
You can't tell me that in all 4 of those games that he started, well, at least the first 3, that they weren't huge underdogs.
Yeah, but look at that, 1-3-1. I mean, yeah, he threw a buttload of touchdowns and a bunch of yards. But, he's thrown the ball 50 times, 33 times. Yeah, that was a little bit of an anomaly. Who was that against? The Saints. No defense out of the Saints. The Eagles. No defense out of the Eagles. No defense out of the Steelers. And then, yeah, he was locked down by the Bears, which is totally understandable.
Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens.
We will see. But this also leads to my sleeper, Amari Cooper.
Woo!
Yeah, the new boy in Dallas. The question is, and Jarvis and I were kind of talking about this before, is so Jones and so who are you taking out to put in Jones?
Even though he's my sleeper, I'd probably take out. I don't know. It'd either be Galladay or Godwin.
Come on, you got to pick. Come on.
Godwin.
Oh, really? Getting rid of your sleeper?
Yeah.
He must be sleeping.
Yeah.
I would do the same thing with Amari. I would throw. So I guess really what would probably have to happen is, I would probably throw in Cooper over Galladay. I'll give you Jones over Godwin. That's kind of a little tough call.
I'm okay with that though. I'm okay with that take.
I don't know if it's the best. I don't want to get wishy-washy on it though either, because I do think Amari Cooper can be a top 15 wide receiver in this league. I just don't know if he can do it in his first week in a stagnant offense of, Dallas. So, but they are playing the Titans, who don't have too shabby of a defense. Now we'll get into...
This will be fun.
This will be fun.
The fact that C.J. Beathard is not starting tonight, I can't decide if that's a help or a hurt for me, in the sense that it's definitely a help that you're not able to start him in an extremely favorable matchup. But it's also kind of one of those, like, I'm trying to decide if it's a hurt because I'm starting George Kittle as my tight end. And with an inexperienced quarterback making his first start, primetime game, there's probably going to be a lot of nerves and jitters there. So I'm expecting a heavy target share still, from Kittle. Again, like I really like those slot guys, those tight ends, those pass-catching running backs out of the backfield for an inexperienced and rookie quarterback because he gets nervous. You don't want to take, a lot of shots deep. You just want to get the ball out quick to an open guy, and I think that Kittle could be that person for the Niners tonight. So,
agreed. And we'll see how, maybe it will be one of those complete ball control for the Niners.
This could be a 3-0 game.
Yeah. And, and maybe they'll just kind of roll over and be down by, 21 at halftime and just keep running the ball. And so the young kid doesn't get killed.
Yeah.
That's going to be a good matchup between us, though.
I agree. It'll be fun.
And here we go.
Come on, Mike.
Come on, Mike. We're both rooting for you, buddy.
Sorry, Will.
I'm not going to apologize for saying that. Even if Will's no longer in my division, I'm still going to root against his ass. Can I say ass?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's actually a huge game for Mike to try to get back on track and to score some points.
His second running back slot for Mike. What do you do?
Well, you wait until.
I'm talking about Rashad Penny because you're gonna start Nick Chubb. If Dalvin Cook plays, which it looks as of right now like he could, but you don't want to rely on Rashad Penny.
Well, and Penny is just coming off a 0
gooser
and a 0 stat line. Ouch. And, you've seen up above where Mike must have been desperate week 5 and started Penny. Or maybe he was okay with the 49 yards the week before.
Poor Mike. Look at that. He started him twice, and he's gotten 0.5 points out of him in 2 combined games.
And that just shows how hard this league is to accumulate any kind of running back depth. It really does. And here we go. Rooting for Darky. Woo! Wish I had my terrible towel. I'd be waving it right now. Unfortunately for Darky, this does not bode real well. Being down a quarterback, being down A.J. Green, that hurts. And, Kroll comes in with a full squad.
He's locked and ready to roll.
Yeah. And I think he's fairly done with his bye weeks.
And look at Darky's got bye week issue there with Carson Wentz, so we're going to have to throw in somebody else. And I'm looking at his lineup. He's got Collins, Ingram, and McCaffrey. The reason I want to talk about that real fast is because Alex Collins is actually, again, my sit of the week. I think I did this a couple weeks ago. But when you look at this matchup, he's at home against the Steelers. Steelers right now are 4th versus the run. Steelers could be, even though they're a little bit banged up with Ben Roethlisberger, but they can still score, pretty handily, and it will, even against this defense. So you just never know. But we talked about it briefly a little earlier. They just traded for Ty Montgomery, so it screams to me that this coaching staff is not 100% confident in what they have right now. And in a game that there could be more, passing than running. You got Buck Allen there. You bring in Ty Montgomery. Now, who knows how much he's going to actually play this week just because he's got to learn the playbook. But I'm just not a fan of Alex Collins in this situation. Everything is screaming to me like it could be a Buck Allen game.
My only thing with that is it doesn't generally – it's crazy. It doesn't matter how good the Steelers' run defense is. When they play Baltimore, they always struggle. Now, I'm not going to knock
you. And you would know that more than I would.
And I'm not going to knock you one bit for sitting Collins. I really won't.
Okay, so who do you play? Would you play Alex Collins or would you play Cameron Brate with Ryan Fitzpatrick back?
No, and that's exactly, I couldn't sit Brate. I mean, I couldn't. I don't think I could sit Alex Collins.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like he's got much of a choice, so
And Reuben Foster, I would have probably given him the nod, but he is out tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't go with the Steelers defense over the Ravens even. Flacco just doesn't turn the ball over very often. It's would be a tough call, and I don't have enough faith in Chris Hogan myself. He's one of those players I just don't like, and because he's too up and down. Little Deshaun Jackson there. Stefan against Gary. This is big in multiple regards.
Come on, Gary. Come on, Gary.
Stefan with the division lead. Gary clawing to get into those playoffs. But Stefan, bye. Just when he's got a backup running back and possibly a backup quarterback for his only active players this week, he didn't have any choice.
And we look at both of their wide receiver core, it's really not a lot to be too excited about. Goodwin could be hampered tonight by, Beathard getting benched.
Yeah.
And Cooper Kupp's coming off an injury where he's kind of questionable, but it does sound like he's good to go. Come on, Gary. I'm rooting for you. I really like Gary's quarterback squad, though, with Ryan and Wilson.
Definitely. I mean, possibly 2 top 5 fantasy quarterbacks right there.
Yeah.
So, and that's a close matchup, and I really wouldn't be too surprised if they scored 15, 20 points less than that, both of them. Gurley's going to get Stefan some points there, but his wide receivers are just yuck. Baldwin's just so bad right now.
He is. He's not healthy.
No.
He even admitted it earlier in this year that he doesn't feel like he'll be 100% at any point.
Agreed. Torrey with a big one against Luke. Luke, that benching of Jameis, the injury to Tannehill, just has decimated him. Now he's got Dalton on a bye, and luckily for him, he picked up Peterman, and Peterman's going to get the start this week.
Yeah, that was a big move by him.
So he kind of lucked into it, but it's going to help. And right now, Torrey's got a couple of guys that are out. He's definitely got to pick up a tight end just to start,
and a defense
just to start. And there's really, I can tell you, there's not a whole lot out there for tight ends. Defenses, I would imagine, are probably about the same.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of defenses, if you look over at Luke's, look at his right now. It's slated for the Bears to be his highest scoring roster spot, and it just so happens that the Bears are my start of the week this week. They are facing the Bills. So go on the road, face the Bills at home. They're 4th overall. The Bears are the 4th overall defense this year, and they're going up against the 30th overall offense. You got Nate Peterman starting. Bears are actually 10-point favorites in this game in an over-under matchup at 37.5 points. Shady is kind of struggling a little bit, and the Bears haven't allowed, he's kind of like Shady's like the highlight of the Bills offense right now, but the Bears haven't allowed a single rushing touchdown this year on the ground. So
that's pretty impressive.
That's very impressive. So this could be a 20, 30-point performance put out by his defense.
Well, you kind of thought that a few weeks ago when they were playing the Dolphins, or even last week when they played the Jets.
The only reason why I'm saying that this wouldn't be a lock for 25 points is the fact that they're playing in Buffalo.
Yeah. And that Buffalo D is probably going to keep.
They are. They play really well at home.
They really do. So it's going to be another low-scoring affair. But I think it could go either way. Torrey needs to score points, so that's for sure. Needs a win there.
Yeah, and if he doesn't make any roster moves, he's going to have 2 goosers.
Yep. So you better be listening if you're hauling grain there. Alrighty. Now we get into Gary and Shannon. We went over to Shannon's already, but Gary. Oh, we actually went over to Gary's too. So that's gonna we got an 11-point game there. Expect it to be that close as well. Stefan and Will.
There's another one.
Don't even know who I want to win this. I think I don't want either one on the break 100. I'd be okay with
Yeah, if one of them can win like 140 to 139, that'd be okay.
Oh, I was talking like 100 to 99.
Okay, even better.
I was getting all greedy there.
Yeah. Let's unseat Darky and give someone else that new low point for the year.
Yep, exactly. So that's going to be a fun battle to watch as well. One division winner or leader, co-division leader with you there. Two Titans.
So if you look at Stefan, though, I mean, he's on Bipocalypse, obviously, this week, but he's got 3 guys from the Raiders in his lineup in a Thursday night matchup that's slated to be statistically the worst matchup in 50 years. So you got Jordy Nelson, Doug Martin, Derek Carr. Derek Carr, I don't mind. I think that's fine play. But Doug Martin, I think he's in a backfield right now that Jalen Richard is probably going to come away with the majority of the touches. Now, maybe not like actual rushes, but definitely catches.
Well, Martin had a touchdown last week. He did have 13 carries. He did have a couple of catches. I would say 72 yards. That might be the floor tonight for him. Yeah,
I think that's probably the ceiling.
I just think it's going to be that bad of a game. The Raiders are going to run the ball a lot.
And I could be wrong. I'm thinking this is probably a Richard game, though.
And you very well might be right. We'll bet a nickel on that, huh?
Yeah, we'll see in 12 minutes. You can't be excited. I mean, I know, again, it's Bipocalypse. It's week 9. A lot of people are affected by that. But you can't be excited about having to throw out Jordy Nelson and Doug Martin in the same week.
No. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, you'd be okay with Nelson. And then last week, I think he scored 4 points last week. Oh, 2.4. Yeah, 1 catch, 4 targets. He's gone down the toilet ever since those nice 3-game stretch, and then nothing. We get to Jarvis here, which Jarvis actually has my sit.
Oh, do I?
I'm actually going to sit Trubisky like he's got him, even with Big Ben and his broken finger.
This is a decision that I will be toiling with until Sunday at 11:55 a.m.
And that's not an easy call with, Trubisky. He's performed way better than my expectations. He really has.
If this game was in Chicago, I would probably lean more towards Trubisky.
Mm-hmm. But it is in Buffalo. You never know about the weather. I haven't checked on the weather there. So you never know if the winds are going to be 30 miles an hour or if there's going to be a foot of snow.
Mm-hmm.
But that's still a good matchup between, Darky definitely needs to get in, get a big win here.
And having AJ Green out, that hurts. Carson Wentz out for him. A big blow.
Yeah, definitely so. Kroll and JJ. Kroll's basically full strength. We went over that. JJ, that Leonard Fournette just has really just killed him all year long. Of course, he's got Adrian Peterson this help, but Duke Johnson's just been so horribly misused in Cleveland that he's not even an afterthought there. Now we'll see with the new coaching staff what they're going to do with him.
Off topic, got a request for a conversation.
Oh.
This is a who would you rather? Who would you rather start this week? Derek Carr or Ryan Fitzpatrick?
Oh boy. Oh boy. That's now who is Fitzmagic playing?
Fitzpatrick is playing the Panthers, while Derek Carr is playing the 49ers tonight. So I like the matchup, the defensive matchup better for Derek Carr. I feel like it's a defense that you can attack a little bit better. However, even though the defense for the Panthers is a little bit better, and they're playing a lot better than the 49ers, and they're at home, Ryan Fitzpatrick has a lot more weapons. You know, he's got a Godwin. He's got Mike Evans. He's got Brait, O.J. Howard, who he loves throwing to the tight ends, too. And those deep balls, if it were me, I would feel more comfortable starting Ryan Fitzpatrick tonight.
You know,
or not tonight, but I mean this week.
Yeah, I think I'm going to go with you on that one. Even though there's that little guy in the back of my head screaming, he could get benched, he could get benched, he could get benched. I think they actually let Fitzmagic start for a week, maybe two, and go from there.
Who's the Raiders' number one right now, wide receiver? See, that's the issue. You have to think about it, and you make a noise because is it Jordy Nelson? Is it Seth Roberts? Is it Martavis Bryant, who didn't even have a target last week?
He didn't even.
It's
have a
probably Jared Cook or Jalen Richard.
Agreed.
So that's why I like Fitzpatrick better. He's got those deep threats there available to him at any point. Derek Carr is just going to kind of pepper you to death.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's going to eat some time away from the clock. So don't be surprised if Derek Carr has more passing attempts than Fitzpatrick. Not saying that's out of the realm of possibility, but Fitzpatrick, I think has the potential to put up far more yards and some bigger plays and some more touchdowns.
And I agree with you. Just because of the amount of weapons. Now, will he actually utilize them without throwing, 2 to 3 interceptions? We'll see. Carr is just so mundane, so blah. Like Brad would actually call him vanilla, which is a very good depiction of him. Now here we go. We got the 2 bottom teams duking it out.
Whew.
Both with some bye weeks issues going on. Now
it's funny that you say Duke because this lineup features Duke. Oh, hey, real fast. Look at Adrian Peterson there, man. You remember flashback last week? Adrian Peterson was my sleeper of the week.
And look at how he tore it up like the AP of.
I knew it. The Giants they traded away Snacks Harrison. You could run on them. I felt this was a great game script for him with Chris Thompson out. I feel really good about that.
That was a fantastic call. I give you kudos right there.
But Adrian Peterson going forward, this is crazy, but could AP be back?
Well, you look at the matchup that he's got, and for the most part, it's pretty favorable. Texans might not be so easy. Cowboys, we need to check on the Cowboys too.
Oh,
Eagles have been kind of a dumpster fire. Giants are terrible. That's the playoff stretch right there. The Jags, unfortunately, that's right there. Week 15, right in the midst of the playoffs. That's going to be tough for him.
But week 14, first week against the Giants, you can run on them.
Absolutely.
And the Jaguars actually.
Now JJ just needs a bunch of wins to get there, but he's still going for that first overall pick if he doesn't make the playoffs. Okay, Mike and Corn Ranch. I don't think there's too many bigger matchups, more at stake for these guys.
Exactly.
Both of them desperately want to win right here. Both of them to keep sniffing. If they don't win, at least don't score 153.
And both are really hurt by this bye week too.
Yes,
they're
down.
They're coming out of it, able to put together a roster that's got 2 quarterbacks, which is really good for them. Mm-hmm. But when you look at the overall buys on both sides, it's just like, wow. Look at Torrey's lineup. I mean, he's got Eli Manning, Nyheim Hines, who's been outstanding lately, David Johnson, Tyler Boyd, Alshon Jeffrey, all on bye.
Yep.
And Carlos Hyde, this would be the week that, he got traded last week, has a week to adjust, comes back. This would be the week to play him, but now he's on a bye. And Marlon Mack, holy hand grenades. Dude, that guy's been tearing it up.
Yes, he has. Yes.
T.Y. Hilton, Chester Rogers, like that Indianapolis Colts, like you want a piece of that Indianapolis offense where Andrew Luck is throwing it 50 times a game.
Mm-hmm.
So both these guys getting hit by that bye week, but Torrey makes a move to get a tight end or in a defense. I think you can go out there and pick up a viable streaming defense this week. Tight end is the one that's kind of questionable right now. But this will be a fun one to watch as well. This is going to be one to I'll be keeping my eye on for sure.
And I agree. It's this type of a matchup that I really love. It's great seeing, Stefan and Will go toe to toe. But those guys are almost locked into the playoffs right now.
Yeah, and these guys are the ones that are battling out for that wild card position at seed 6. And actually, there's somebody I wanted to talk about real quick too on Torrey's lineup is Devin Funchess. In a matchup against the Bucs, like if you get an opportunity to attack the secondary, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, you're going to want to do it. You're going to want a piece of that offense. The only reason that DJ Moore wasn't my sleeper this week is because he's on a taxi squad right now. So you're not going to pull him up. But I think DJ Moore and Devin Funchess has the potential to have a monster game this week.
Agreed. The only question is, is this going to be the Funchess of last week, of last year, of the year before, or is it going to be the Funchess of 2 weeks ago where he tore up the Eagles, and got a touchdown, or the week before when he got a touchdown? He still hasn't even broken 100 yards yet, but getting those touchdowns goes a long ways. So it's definitely going to be another really, really fun week, though, to sit back and watch how people struggle during these bye weeks. And that's one thing that I love about having the small rosters is it makes these bye weeks really tough.
We're starting to see decisions that you make in week 5, week 6, week 7, week 8, leading up to this time of the year, start to play themselves out. Did you prepare yourself? Did you look forward to getting your lineup built around missing some of these big name players?
And even it goes back to the draft as well. Did you draft well enough, deep enough to put yourself in a position where you can handle these bye weeks? We'll see. I mean, we still have another 3 weeks of bye weeks left. Not as brutal as 8 and 9, but still affecting people's lineups.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, I think that would be about it. I think the game is about ready to start, and I believe Stefan's probably on his 3rd or 4th Morgan and Coke now at the Dome, and I think I'm trying to talk my co-host Jarvis into partaking, but he would rather put up a Christmas tree than have Christmas Captain Morgan's, I guess.
Ooh, that's very tempting. I don't think this is what I would rather do. It's what my wife would rather me do.
So, all righty. Well, thanks everybody for listening to another great episode of Intentional Streaming. We really appreciate you checking in with us and dealing with a couple of amateurs that are trying to get better with each given week. So until next week, we will try to be our normal Wednesday time next week at 7. No, 8 o'clock. 7:45. Jeez, don't even
7:45.
So until then, we will catch you and enjoy your weekend.
Set those lineups. Go get that 6th seed.